give of the subcommittee in order for us to be able to have finality on the items we dealt with today and prepare us for the other days that would come in terms of the program. Honorable members, it therefore means that this being the subcommittee, it's also affected by rules of the National Assembly, which also includes the rules on virtual meetings. We are reminded that at all times we have to ensure that our mics are muted, our cameras are switched off until you are recognized to speak by the chairperson. In that score, you would then unmute your mic and switch on your video camera. So as for those that are following also the discussions could really also see the members or participants that are contributing. In this case, honorable members, we're also reminded then that in a situation where you experience connectivity challenges, you may request the permission of the chairperson to switch off your video camera so as to maximize your bandwidth. In situations where we may have participants or members disconnected, please ensure at all times when you reconnect to the meeting that your mic is muted, video camera switched off, as background sounds that could be picked up by mics could distract the speaker that may be on the platform at the time. In the nature of the meetings, there would be point of orders in terms of the rules. Please remember that you need to still mute your mic, even on a point of order, so that you are recognized by the chairperson. And in that score, you'll then unmute your mic and proceed to raise the point of order on which the chairperson may rule upon in line with the rules. If we keep that, honorable members, it then helps us to run our meetings in a way that doesn't disrupt the proceedings. I would, without then a waste of time, as I said, you are now welcomed. This is the subcommittee, as I said, put in terms of National Assembly rules. Would, for formality, check if there are any apologies that have been received. I do see that almost all members are here, all parties are here, except for one, unless the member would have used another gadget to come in. But let's just take it for formal apologies received, if there are any.
Thank you, Chairperson. I received only one apology, Chairperson, from Honorable Pambo. He said he's traveling abroad. He won't be able to make it, but he did indicate that he will send one of the members to represent him. Thank you, Chair.
May I just check if that member is on the platform?
He gave me a name, but I don't see
Okay.
the member on the platform yet.
No, that's fine. We'll then, in that score, note that apology. As I said, almost all other parties are represented on the platform. As you'd be aware, maybe it's important for South Africans that the subcommittee is constituted proportional to the size of the party as per the elections of 2019. So in that score, we do have the ANC with 4. We have got the Democratic Alliance as represented 1. We have got the EFF and the IFP, and we can confirm that present from the side of the ANC starting with the chairman, Eli. Honorable Lala is on the platform, Honorable Dr. Basop on the platform, Honorable Tembo, representing Honorable Kubeka, is on the platform. We have Honorable Kola Barnett as a member of the Democratic Alliance on the platform. We have Honorable Majosi from the IFP, and as we would have heard, we have an apology from Honorable Pambo from the EFF. So we have got quite a huge number present, which makes us to proceed with the meeting accordingly. Maybe would then be guided if you would want to flight quickly the agenda. The agenda is looking at the shortlisting of candidates for the SABC board vacancies. I just want to check from the content people, because they had indicated in the previous meeting that we would get a briefing on Thursday. In that briefing, before we even get to the shortlisting itself, we would also want the committee support to confirm in relation to the list of nominees, whether those indeed would have been sent to members as agreed, and that the lists we have are those that would have met the nomination criteria. So in that briefing would also need that. I see Honorable Kola Barnett.
Good morning again. As we're talking about the main list, I've spoken to Portia. I was contacted by a Mr. John Mattison, who said he wanted to know if he was on the list, and I didn't see his name. And apparently, well, I think Portia should explain the process. He's apparently a former board member. So I wasn't sure if he was actually had now been put on the list or not. I wonder if you could clarify for me, please.
Like I said, Honorable Kola Barnett will then also get the briefing on that and then take up the matter at that point. So your point, surely, as you indicate, you've had a discussion there, should have to also speak to that specifically, and will make rulings where a need arises. But for now, I just wanted to check with the content advisors if they want to do that briefing now, and then allow the committee support then to take us to the list issues and then get to the actual shortlisting. Dr. Midubi, I see you.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and the honorable members. Yes, indeed, Chair, we have a very, very brief presentation, to make this morning, just to outline, the process of the interviews. And indeed would, through Portia as well, would just give an indication of, the total number of applicants and how many of those, managed to apply, within the stipulated, time, and how many of those would, would fall outside of, the cutoff date. If I may, Chair, then ask Portia to, to fly to the brief presentation. Portia. Can you put it on the presentation mode? Thank you so much. Chair and the honorable members, this is a very, very brief, as I've indicated, presentation. It's the roadmap, for the appointment process of the SABC board members. And this is dated, on the 8th September, which is today. Next slide, Portia. With the term of the current board due to expire, as you all know, Chair, the PCC is tasked with ensuring that new SABC board members, is nominated, or SABC board is nominated and appointment before end of the term of the current board. PCC, as part of the planning, Chair, we are targeting the NA sitting of the 29th September for the consideration of the PCC report on appointment of non-executive board members of the SABC. Next slide, Portia. PCC advertised as we all know, Chair, that the advert went out and it was closed. I think it was given a 2-week period, and it was closed on the 6th August 2022. We received actually a total of 120 nominations within the prescribed closing date. Then the PCC considered that's what we recommended, about 36 candidates, which would be what would be shortlisted today as part of the shortlisting process. The 36 candidates, the 36 shortlisted will translate into at least about 3 candidates per SABC board non-executive position. Interviews will be conducted, based on the schedule that we have shared with the rest of the members over a 4-day, period, and each and every candidate would be given about 45 minutes. Noting that some processes are dependent on other parliament services and other state institutions, this may have an impact in the case of the SABC board, the Broadcasting Act, as would all know, Chair, would be used. The next slide, Portia. The Broadcasting Act, as you all know, Chair, SABC is governed by the Broadcasting Act, Act 4 of 1999. Section 13, subsection 1 sets out that 12 non-executive members of the board must be appointed by the president on the advice of the National Assembly. Section 13, subsection 2 sets out that the non-executive members of the board must be appointed in a manner ensuring that participation, first of all, participation by the public, there's participation by the public in a nomination process, that there's transparency and openness, and that a short list of candidates for appointment is published, taking into account the object and principles of this very act. Section 13, subsection 4 sets out the requirements of the individuals required to serve on the SABC board. It stated that the members of the board must, when viewed collectively, be persons who are suited to serve on the board by virtue of their qualifications, expertise, experience in the field of broadcasting policy and technology, broadcasting regulation, media law, frequency planning, business practice and finance, marketing, journalism, entertainment, and education, social and labor issues. And those are the requirements which have also been applied, as part of the, the advert that went out. That person must be persons who are committed, first of all, to fairness, freedom of expression, the right of the public to be informed, and openness and accountability on the part of those holding public office. That person must represent a broad cross-section of the population of the population of the republic. Must be persons who are committed to the object and principles as enunciated in the charter of the cooperation. Next slide, Portia. Now, Chair, we've really outlined, in a schematic diagram, a process that would ordinarily, be followed, under normal circumstances. First of all, it would be, from the far left, Parliament initiate to appoint SABC non-executive board members. The next step would be resolution. It would be resolution B, which is number of candidates to be shortlisted. And in this instance, we are really anticipating about at the most, there will be 36 nominations as outlined earlier on. There will be deliberation as the next step, deliberations of 36 nominees, which is what's going to be happening today. As soon as those names are confirmed, the chair will then get them published for public participation and comment. The next step will then be public participation, process review, and deliberation. That is under normal circumstances. And the next step will then be the HR processes, which would have to kick in. And that would be immediately followed by the conducting of the actual interviews. There will then be a report on the 12 SABC non-executive board members at the end of the interview process. And then there'll be a resolution, which is appointment of 12 SABC non-executive board members. Then that will be the end of the process. Important to make members aware, Chair, that as indicated, earlier on in one of the meetings, that given the time constraint that we are faced with, we are likely to find ourselves having to run some of those processes concurrently. Next slide, Portia. Now, this is yet again just to emphasize on the shortlisting process, processes, Chair. Today, what will be happening is the actual shortlisting, and there will be 1A. There will be qualification verification check processes that will need to be undertaken. There would then be there will be nominee logistics processes that will also happen as part of the the overall processes. There will be state security as a consultation process. There will be interview preparation logistics, and given all that, Chair, on the what is on color blue, there will be public participation process which is planned for a period of 2 weeks from the 8th September up until the 22 September. That's what in a nutshell, Chair, the bottom block as well is emphasizing on. Next slide, Portia. The high-level business process, our business processes yet again, Chair, is a shortlisting, is a qualification and verification check process, state security, consultation process, public participation process, the interview process, which is block number 4, deliberations processes, which is slide number 5, and then the National Assembly adoption process. And that has been outlined as per the schedule that has been shared with the rest of the members. Can you go to the next slide, Portia? Now, just to emphasize on the date, Chair, and on the high level, business processes and the timelines. 8th September is a shortlisting process. That is what is happening today. Between the 8th and the 22 September is the qualification checks, the state security clearance process, the public participation process. Between the 13th and the 16th September, as outlined on the on the schedule, it is the actual interview processes. On the 26th September, those will be that will be the date set aside for deliberations, and we are earmarking, given that we really are constrained for time, Chair, that by the 29th September, the overall report would then be be tabled for the National Assembly adoption. Next slide, Portia. Chair, just to re-emphasize, this is the last slide. On the committee activity, the time frame, the expected outcome. Today, which is Tuesday the 8th, will be the actual shortlisting process of the 36 nominees. And between the 8th September and the 22 September will be the qualifications verification, state security clearance, and the public participation process. All 36 nominated candidates would have been consulted and qualifications and vetting verified and cleared. All 36 candidates are brief CVs uploaded to the Parliament website for public comments, and all 36 nominated candidates would have been contacted and their respective slots confirmed. Interview of shortlisted candidates nominated to serve on the board. That's the next committee activity. That is on Tuesday the 13th, between the 13th and the 16th of September, and each candidate will be afforded at the most 45 minutes, during the interview process. 36 candidates would be interviewed over 4 days, with a total of 27 hours allocated for the entire interview process. Deliberation on the interview candidates to be recommended for appointment to the SABC board, and adoption of report recommending candidates for appointment to the SABC board. That's the next activity. That will happen on the Monday, the 26th September 2022, between 9 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And 12 candidates recommended for NA consideration. That's the expected outcome. And the last activity will then be the NA adoption of 12 nominated candidates, which is Tuesday, the 29th September 2022. 12 candidates recommended by NA to the president to serve on the SABC board. That's the end of the presentation, Chair. If there's any questions, then the support staff, we are all ready to assist and respond to questions and clarify any matters that needs to be clarified. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Midubi. I will now invite Portia, before I take hands, Portia to complete the part as it relates to the list and so on. Thereafter, I would then open so that you ask on the full presentation. Portia, because there were specific questions raised already earlier on. Speak to that.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, members and colleagues. Chairperson, the closing date for the call for nominations was the 6th of August at 4 o'clock. And at that time, we received a total of 120 nominations. And after the closing time, we received some nominations which they didn't meet the deadline, about 10 of those nominations that were late. But I've noted them aside. I didn't include them on the list because they didn't meet the deadline. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Portia. May I then invite members who want to be clarified or make comments? I see Honorable Kola Bernard. Your hand is up. You are recognized. You can proceed.
Thank you, Chair. I'm interested in the SSA consultation process. Do these members of the board have to have a specific level of security clearance, or are you looking at a general background check in terms of criminal records, etc., debt, anything that could have an impact on their position? And also, going through the list that I received late on Tuesday, in fact, there are a number of nominations that appear twice. I saw at least 3, I think. So there weren't actually 120 applications in total. And I'm also interested because of I was contacted by this Mr. Batterson, what the situation is in terms of perhaps not getting the paperwork in a few hours late or whatever. Could you just clarify on that matter? Thank you.
Chairperson.
Honorable Dr. Basu.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and honorable members. Firstly, I just want to confirm the duplication of some members who are appearing twice on the list, and also I don't have the copy of the presentation. I don't know whether that is problem is with me only. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Basu.
Chair.
Yes, Honorable Mthembu, you are recognized.
Good morning, Chair, and all members of the committee. Mine is to just welcome a presentation as it was clear, and I don't have any question. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mthembu. Would thou give an opportunity for the committee support to respond to those that they can respond to? I'll then come later on that. But in the meantime, just ensure once again that the presentation is circulated to all members. Can I start with you, Dr. Mtu?
Thank you very much, Chair. And I would also request that Mr. Maleka assist in that score. To honorable members, in as far as the security clearance is concerned, our understanding is that, and I think Mr. Malek would emphasize on that, it's the basic security clearance, which is your criminal, in the main, your criminal checks in the main. But having said that, I would want to confirm, Chair, that we would have to go back and look into the list. When we counted, between myself, Portia, and the rest of the support staff, we had indeed, kind of 120, but would definitely go back and verify on those numbers. And as Portia has indicated, Chair, there are those that are, that responded or applied outside of the cutoff date. May I then, Chair, allow Mr. Maleka just to add, to add in terms of, the actual process of the vetting where I might have missed out anything. Thank you, Chair.
Maleka.
Morning. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Good morning, honorable members. Apologies for not showing the video. I'm actually on load shedding, so I'll be in and out of the meeting as I'm trying to maneuver myself. In terms of the security clearance, honorable members, as far as we know, it's just a general background criminal record check. But I think it's a foregone conclusion that the security checks actually happen at various levels. For our level, it's only to check whether there's any criminal background of any of the nominations. And it's just, I think it's the generic SSA check, but I know that the department also does their own security vetting, including together with the presidency. So ours, I think, is the first layer, first level of the checking, if that answers the questions. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Maleka. Ms. Tabeni?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'll try and answer Dr. Baso.
the shortlisting one. Honorable Mlala, I will see your hand.
Thanks, Chairperson, and good morning, Honorable Chair, and good morning to honorable members and colleagues, including the support staff. My question, Chair, relates to what Dr. Basopo raised. I was not quite comfortable with the response. Maybe I did not understand the response. Is the response saying that if you are nominated 4 times, you are appearing 4 times in the list in terms of duplication? Or is it saying there's an error in terms of the duplication? Because if I understood and Mentabeni's response, she's saying we captured them as they were nominated by various people. So if that can be clarified for me, it will be okay. But maybe I don't know, Chairperson, you saying that you will deal with Honorable Barnard's question, because I don't want a situation where we start a process and later on there's appeals and so on. If that can be verified, in the meantime, we deal with other issues. Why can't the support staff just verify that and then give a clear response so that we don't come back to the same issue that we're supposed to deal with today? But I don't know if dealing with it in principles include that. If that, I will be covered, Chair. Thanks.
No, thanks, Honorable Mlala. Like I was saying, I was still just dealing with the points that have been raised just to make sure that we can get back to everything. So by principle, I mean that the point raised here relates to the current serving member of the board. You'll do the verification, but from what committee support staff would have indicated, it's people who would have applied after the cutoff date would have been put aside and not included on the list. Then if there's proof that the person would have been in the list within the cutoff date and probably not captured, that will be a different matter. The point of principle I want to talk to is that in any way, if you look at what has been presented by Dr. Mitubi, surely if there are members of the board currently serving who have shown interest in reapplying to be in the board, because the term comes to an end. So it's not automatic that if you are in the board, all members of the board would. They may not have interest, some of them, to come back, but others may have interest. So you'll find it very difficult as a matter of principle to exclude those that have reapplied from a point of qualification, because in any way they are serving in the board because they qualified, they met what the legislative requirements are. So as a matter of principle, you'd be able to cover that. Now, in a case that it's proven that this member of the board would have reapplied in the sense that the board member was nominated by whoever would have nominated and was within the cutoff date, you will seek to include that member. But if it is outside of the cutoff date, you would have to treat that person like all other South Africans who would have applied and not done that within the cutoff date, so that there is no question about it. Because an appeal will be on exclusion when you are within the cutoff date. So I want, when they come back, maybe get to whether that name is within the 10, and like Honorable Kola Barnard is asking, whether besides interacting with her as a member of the subcommittee, whether as required would have also interacted with the administration. So I'm doing this so that when that response comes, we can then move from this point. So if we can agree as a matter of principle, those who would have really qualified because they are current serving, they met the requirements at that time when the advert was out, and nothing has changed in terms of legislation. So we're still using the same legislation that qualified them to be a board member. So I was raising that, Honorable Mlala, the principal issue in that context. Maybe Portia will still come back to explain this point. But my understanding from the position of the chair is that what she's explaining is they tried to put together a list that shows transparency of the process, that they capture the nominations as received, so that there is no point that a particular grouping that nominated its nomination would have not been considered, because it's different groupings, different people that are making nominations. Yes, they may be looking at the same candidate, but just remember that for purposes of our shortlisting, we are looking at a particular number, and therefore the number of nominations received by one person would not be a material issue, because it's only one person to be considered for shortlisting, not the number of nominations for the shortlisting. So I'm just saying, probably it's an issue of transparency, because you would know that before there would have been questions even about people that have been excluded at the time, who were excluded on the basis that they were not really responding to the advert, and members would demand to know why have they been excluded before coming to the committee itself. So I think administration gets caught up in that situation of balancing, yes, what needs to be done, but the demands to have transparency of the process on how you arrived at candidates. So I thought that it's important we clarify those so that we do not spend time on those numbers, whether this means that this person will probably have an unfair advantage to others because of the number of nominations captured. No, we're looking at the same person when we look at the shortlisting. But as I said, Ms. Ndabeni, you may want to speak specifically to those questions if they are not covered.
Before that, Chair, can I make a follow-up?
Is that Dr. Basop? Honorable
Yes,
Dr.
Chair.
Basop?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Honorable Basop, I have.
Yeah. We have not addressed. If I got the question clearly from the honorable member, it goes further to say, in fact, who is supposed to lodge a complaint? Is the applicant, or are we at liberty, we as members, to write? Because there is that element in this question, which I believe it needs to be clarified now. If I got her correctly, there is that element in her question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Basop. Let me then allow first the committee support to respond to those specifics if they are not covered by the summary. Ms. Ndabeni, if you want to come in, and then I will get the content advisors to speak to the matter.
Okay, thank you, Chair. With regards to the list, Chair, you are correct. I've captured the nominations as they come. So everything that was received in the mailbox, I have captured it as received. So that's why then you'll find that some of the names are not necessarily duplicated, but it's different nominations, but maybe the same person nominated, but by different organizations or persons. Thank you, Chair.
Chairperson, Chairperson,
Oh, it's like I'm talking to myself.
yeah,
I've been
Yes,
talking. I've been talking.
to yourself.
I've been talking. So sorry for that. I hope it's not indicative that I'll be cut off from the meeting. I think Ms. Damin has responded to that question. But just to be on the question that is raised by Honorable Dr. Basop as a follow-up to what Honorable Kolabana would have raised. I take it that honorable members, as the subcommittee members, who have a task of playing a role of adjudicating on this service, these nominees, and make recommendations in terms of shortlisting. If there was to be any appeal process, it is my considered view that it will not be a of course, it's a matter we may want to also test with legal, but I'm just saying from a point of practice where you are presiding on a matter and that you become a complainant at the same time, that will just be outside of rules of natural justice, that you can preside on your own case. So I think I would have accepted that any member could be approached and raise the issue because you are known to be in the committee, but it doesn't make us to be representatives of complaints by nominees that we are to consider ourselves whether they do qualify to be shortlisted by the committee. I hope that helps, but like I'm saying, if members think we need to get legal advice on that, that we can do as we proceed. But we still need to give confidence to South Africans that we are looking at these South Africans that have been nominated from a point of being fair in the way we look at them. We treat them equally as they come before the committee. The same would apply as we get to the other steps, that it will be on the basis of that, so that even their performance, we can give guarantee to South Africans that there would be no sense of bias because we are not the people that have been nominating those people, but we are considering what is brought before. consider them as first in the number we're talking about. The cutoff date, it will be easy to consider on the basis of that principle. So I'm raising it in that way. May I take it that members, we are agreed on the approach so that we actually get to the point of the shortlisting, understanding that you also have other commitments beyond 10, and there's also a committee sitting again, just I think around 1 before we get to the sitting. So if there's no other follow-ups, can we then move to the next point on consideration? Yes, on the Honorable Machozi.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand. I'm not sure what's happening with my gadget, and we don't have electricity here at Acacia, so can I switch off my video? I hear you when you say if maybe the other 10, within the other 10 members, if maybe others would have applied maybe within the cutoff date, and maybe now we are not considering time, but we are considering just on that day of the cutoff. Then I would also ask that maybe they provide us with the 10 so that we also add them on the list, because now we are going to shortlist. We do not know of the 10 whether, because they didn't respond, whether this 10 that they put aside did they received the application on the day of the cutoff, or what was happening. So I want us to have a clarity on that. Did they include
on the same closing date, but they missed the closing time. Most of the because the closing time was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So some of the nominations were received like at 10 at night, or after 8 or after 6 in the evening. So they missed the closing time on the day. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Ndabeni. Honorable members, I would want to guide that we proceed on the basis that we do not want to open the process to time dates and clear details of where you send the info, and it can be proven that you were outside of those prescribed times. That inclusion may create an unnecessary problem, which may just render the whole process quite difficult to proceed with. Like I say, a late submission can also be argued by a person who can submit today. That yes, I'm late, but I submitted. So let's, especially with the numbers we talk about, let's allow ourselves to use what could be defended as a legitimate, fair process, because those who also tried to meet the timelines would have to be respected, that they respected the advert and responded accordingly. So I would want us to really move from this point so that we get to the part of the list and then just agree how we are approaching the actual shortlisting. Honorable members, like I said, maybe the one I'm just going to present those so that we can have an agreement and move to the actual presentations of this. The first point I would have raised, which I would want to test with members, as I said, in those that have applied or nominated within the timelines that have been put on the advert and were seen to be responsive to the advert in that they are in the list provided to us. That where we have current serving members, you would not be able to argue against them in terms of the qualification criteria, as they are already serving members of the board, which does not necessarily talk to them being considered favorably before an interview. So we should have clarity on that. That from a point of qualifying to be shortlisted, the fact that they are serving would mean that they did meet those requirements in any way. Then the assessment would be in the interviews, like all other countries would be assessed in that way. So I want to check if we agree on that as a principle, so that as we look at the 36, we can get an indication that these would have qualified in that score. The second point really would be that we would want to still take the it will be probably 3 or 2 or 1 party on that name, and look at balancing also the skills, the geography, the demographics in terms of non-racial character and so on, so that the list in the true sense is by all means trying to address inclusivity. I think more than the elimination of people. We are looking at more of inclusiveness so that we have quite a variety of people to look at who come before the committee. We will, of course, when we get to that number 36, make a consideration as the committee based on the discussions, if we would really want, or feel that there's a strong feeling to consider particular candidates, but would not go surely beyond 40 or so. So this is what has happened in the committee before in trying to ensure that we have a balanced list. Just for your own benefit, Honorable Kolabanat, at all times we have tried to avoid voting on the names, but more to persuade each other, as we all represent South Africans, but of course under different parties. This is so because the issue about numbers is not an issue, because the electorate has already given the numbers. So we shouldn't be playing the numbers. So voting, it's usually the last resort when people can be persuaded, but we have not had that situation.
Recording in progress.
Before, because we try to be accommodative of each other, but be able to present to South Africans what we think are the best from amongst the best that have come before the committee. So I just thought it's important that I clarify those as we will get to the presentations of the list. But I will also want, as I said, for you to comment on the principles, honorable members, so that once we have agreed, then we get to the lists, we don't go back. May I then recognize hands to comment on the principles so that we agree on them? And where there's disagreement, we can engage on that. So I'm inviting those who want to speak. Honorable Kolabanat, you are one. Can I just check if there's any other member? So you can proceed in the meantime.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Chairperson, I do think all the interviews on the shortlist should be done from a clean slate. I don't believe that former board members, or the board hasn't been dissolved yet, but current board members should be just given free passage through. Things happen over years and situations change, and I would like to be able to score the, well, 30 or 40, whatever we end up with as a shortlist, the number equally on a set matrix, to make up my own mind whether I agree that those people should be back on the board or not. So I would not want to give a free ride straight through without actually doing an interview, so that everybody can see it's an even-handed process. To my mind, that is showing favoritism, and I don't think we should allow that at this stage. Thank you very much.
Any member who would want to contribute?
Let's proceed, Chair. We're clear.
Yeah, no, let's proceed, Chairperson.
Okay. I take it that then the members agree to the principles. Those who are saying we should proceed. Honorable Kolabanat will take note of what you are raising. But indeed, as explained, there's nothing about any favoritism that we have spoken to thus far. today we are dealing with the shortlisting, not the placement of people in the board. Of course, if these members are not considered, they are not considered based on an assessment equally like all other people that will come before the committee. But what we try and do is to have points where there can be points of agreement. So we'll register your disagreement in that regard, but we should be able to proceed.
May I just have clarity, Chair, if I may?
Yeah. Yes, Honourable.
Perhaps I misunderstood. Were you saying that if there are any current or former board members, they should automatically be put through onto the board, or were you saying they should automatically be put on the shortlist? Perhaps I misunderstood.
Yes,
the shortlist for interview.
I suspect, because you were bringing in an appointment itself or recommendation for appointment. The point we're making is that we need to have some grounds where we agree on. One of those being that if they are currently serving, you would have no justification of saying disqualification from a point of just shortlisting. The interview assessment will be a different point because there you have to score people according to their performance and how they've interacted with the committee. So it was just about the list itself of the 36 of 40, whatever would then get to be agreeing upon. That is a starting point, that's where we start. And you'd remember that when you say that, you are also including those that you've just appointed to complete the remainder of a term, which we still have to assess through an interview process. They've just been through interviews as an example. So it's not to give them an unfair advantage. I think I've explained, but it's really that it's a matter of principle, and that we get also new people. That's what the 36 of 40 would give us, who will also assess equally like them in the actual interviews. And I'm sure between me and you would know that if you are reapplying, you are the person that is really on the hot seat more than anybody who comes in an institution, because there's also some background that people would have about how the board and how they've perceived the board throughout its term. I hope that clarifies. So it's really not about favoritism. I think that's why other members would agree that we proceed in that way. So we keep in mind that this is what we would have done in approach, but that doesn't mean those people could be appointed even before who came before the committee, because they needed to perform like all other South Africans who are coming before the committee. I hope that clarifies. Honorable Kola Barnett.
I just want to say thank you. Yes, it does. I misunderstood what you were saying at the outset. I'm very satisfied with with the process now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable Kola Barnett. Can we then, honorable members, move on those bases? The approach would take, like I said, would be to get presentations. You'll present the number of names you'd want to present. Would start, I see the EFF. Can I just check first if that person is in? Ms. Ndabeni, the person you are given.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Pambo had given me the name of Honorable Lorato Tito, and I see she's on the platform. I hope.
She's on the platform. All right.
Yes.
We'll then do like we usually do, to take presentation from parties, starting with the ANC, followed by the Democratic Alliance, followed by the EFF, and then the IFP. The content advisors, like they would do, or committee support, they will create a spreadsheet sort, so that all the names as they get presented, they are captured, and then from there we are able to look at the elimination process, starting with those that are agreed by all parties, and then up to the last name. I hope that's clearer as I give yourselves an opportunity to look at the list you present. Honorable Kola-Barnett.
Just one question, Chair. Are we simply looking at the names at this stage? No reasons need to be given, no justification, simply a list of chosen names per party. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Honorable Kola-Barnett, the parties would have looked at different aspects in order for them to motivate for such a list. They would be able to say that as they present their lists. Otherwise, it's about presentation of the list, having considered everything else, qualification, the skills needed in the board, the demographics, all that taken into account, and they would have arrived at particular names. So it's not a matter of forcing the party to state for each name the 36 why would you look at this. So they would have looked at it collectively, that collective represent different skills and everything else. But we do not sense really what you would want to put as your motivation for the list. So you'll still be free to motivate in the way you want to. Yes, Honorable Kola-Barnett.
Thank you, Chair. I just would like it put on record that I received the full list of, well, we'll call it 120, although it's not quite, late on Tuesday. So I've had that night and yesterday to go through it, and I'm not sure when you received the full list, but I sense you've gone through it with your caucus and discussed, etc. I've had very little time to do that, so I feel it's something of a disadvantage. Although I have produced a list and gone through it with various experts in the field and my caucus members, but patently I would want to take any final decision. I have to take any final decision back to my caucus for sign-off. Thank you.
We note that, Honorable Kola-Barnett, like I said, we are from that meeting, all of us, we received it on that day. Of course, the consultations that you wanted to do would be in that period. We were of the same understanding there that the timelines we have are a bit hectic. So I can confirm that a number of us even experienced problems with just getting through the link, and we had to do as advised in the committee, call committee support to also indicate how do we get to that point. So I do appreciate the challenges that may have been there, and as we consider the list that you put forward, we will understand it. It's from within those constraints, like all other parties may raise. We do take note of what you want to place on record. Thank you. Can we then proceed, honorable members?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Thank you, Honorable Chair. Once again, I just want to well, before let me request that I will not switch on my camera due to poor connectivity on my area. Chair, without wasting any time, let me shoot straight to the list that the subcommittee agreed upon. I will start with candidate number one. Candidate number one is Ramkumba. I'm not sure about the gender. Candidate number 6, Mohlala Molotsi Mamodupi, it's a female. Candidate Maimela. Candidate number 57, it's Maimela David, a male. Please bear with me, I might pronounce wrongly some of the names, honorable members. Candidate number 37, Palane Jack, male. And stop me if I'm rushing. Candidate number 95, Ihon Reni Carol Cynthia, a female. Candidate number 98, Cooper. Candidate number 7, Stempel Cynthia Agnes Soraya, a female. Candidate number 11, Kubele Mpegi Tandega, a female. Candidate number 23, Makake Bena Tomi. Candidate number 12, Tipanyane Tseliso, a male. Candidate number 13, Zamisa Zolile, a male. I hope I'm not rushing, honorable members. Candidate number 48. Candidate number 48, Langa Zita, a male. Candidate number 82, Matthew Zolani, also a male. Sometimes, yes, candidate number 58, Halima Muhuba, a male. Candidate number 76, Modawang Ria Rabezo, a female. Candidate number 77, Mdimbe Lumko, a male. Candidate number 78, Majogana Makahali, a female. Oh, sometimes when you just bear with me. Bear with me, honorable members. This is up and down. I said candidate. Candidate number 77. Where am I now? Candidate number 77 is Imbe Lumko, a male. Candidate 78, Majogana Makahali, a female. I think I'm repeating this too. Candidate 62, it's Kweya Kushu Fundiswa, a female. Candidate 83, Mda Nomazulu, I'm not sure about the gender. Candidate 85, Kate Makwanya, a female. Candidate 88, Dolobi Nkosana, a male. Candidate 89, Khoza Reinek Magogo, a male. Candidate 92, Baji Nomvuiso, female. Candidate 90, Ndima Gugu, a female. Candidate 97, Green Bernard Quintin, a male. Candidate 107, Van Heerden Oscar, a male. Candidate 110, Magdalene Munsami, a female. Candidate 111, Magu Mpine Elizabeth, I think it's a female. Candidate 112, Mkunu Nkolisi. Candidate 118, Zedu Mpo, a female. Candidate 99, Shabangu Stembile, female. Candidate 101, Lamini Solomoni Moferefere. Candidate 103, Daya Sandika, a female. Candidate 108, Titi Mandisa, a female. Candidate 109, Kunz Lien, a female. Candidate 110, Munsami Magdalene, a female. I think this one is repeated. Candidate 114, Sikunyana Yuvon Iolelwa, a female. Candidate 113, Magodiri Mogomosi Jacob, a female. Candidate 115, Mayeba Lindiwe Jacqueline, a female. Candidate 116, Diabezo Letabo Tebe, a male. Candidate 119, Mangcochwa Gobani, a male. Candidate 5, Bapela. Candidate 5, Bapela Nsoreng Pinky, a female. Candidate 16, Makokodi Tado, a male. Candidate 22, Bokaba Shadrach, a male. Candidate 23, Makake Kwena Tommy Thomas, a male. Candidate 25, Fagude Tembisa, a female. Candidate, the last candidate is candidate Kruger Franz. I think it's a male. That is the last one. That is the end of the list, the shortlisted list by the subcommittee of the NEC. Thank you very much, Chair. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mthembu. May I take and collect that? Democratic Alliance.
Thank you, Chair. I have a list of 20 that I am keen to have included. There we go. Sorry, I didn't get the number of Kruger off your list, although I believe he's on mine somewhere. So that wasn't on the ANC list. That final one, the final number wasn't read out. So let me start from the top. These are not graded in order, as it were, of preference. They're simply choices from the list. Number 37 is Jack Patlane. It's down as both number 17 and 29. It's Dr. Renee Carroll Horn. Number 47, Patiswa Magopeni. Number 118, Mpho Tsedu. Number 7, that's Cynthia Stimple. Number 22 is Dr. Shadrach Bokaba. Number 2 is Mr. Ashley Lachu. Number 12 is Advocate Tipanyane. Number 4 is Ms. Sandika Daya. And then number 97 is Mr. Bernard Green. Number 92 is Ms. Nomvuiso Batai. Number 105 is Mr. Zwelika Mabanjwa. Number 80 is Mr. Paris Mashile. Number 93 is Ms. Joy Matizumza, Matyumza. Number 59 is Lance Rothschild. Number 38, there's the number 38, Professor Kruger. Number 35, Mr. McCarty. Number 14, Mr. Monchiwa Mushanye. Number 15, Mr. Frederick Falcon. And number 45, Mr. Trevor Omerod. That's my 20, and that's the only list I would like to put forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Kolopanet. May I then invite Honorable Dr. F from the AFF.
Thanks, Chairperson. Greetings to the honorable members and everyone who is present. Chair, I will also like to indicate that as the caucus of the EFF, we haven't said yet and discussed the names, and I'm sure that Honorable Bambo will send to Ms. Poshia. Thanks, Chair. I'm not going to say too much. Thank you, Chair.
So that's the AFF. I would then check if Honorable from the IFP, Honorable Machos, whether you can hear us.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can hear you. I will firstly raise the fact that I had not looked at the summarized CVs. I just browsed through because I saw an email yesterday from Portia that we'll receive the link with the proper CVs of everyone, but that link seemed to have a lot of problems. We couldn't get through, so I just went through the summarized CVs, and I did not get to 36, but I will just read it through. And I did not do the candidate number 98. I just shortlisted according to the information that I had only. So I hope that the staff will help me in terms of allocating the candidate numbers. Mine goes like this. Number 1, it's Mr. Ramukumba Katutelo Mike. Number 2 is Miss Daya Sandika. Number 3 is Miss Bapela Ntwareng Pinky. Number 4 is Miss Muhlala Mulawudzi. Number 5 is Mr. Zamisa Zolile. And number 6 is Dr. Renee. And number 7, it's Miss Gobisa Mashikwani and Mr. Palani Jack Howard, and Mr. Fakude Tembisa, Mr. Munyati Lemuhang, yeah, and Miss Muhupen Patiswa, Mr. Zita Langa, a doctor, I don't know this name, but it's Dr. Junios Amalai, something like that, yes. Please, you will help me with the name. I don't have the candidate numbers. Mr. Mulamu Tato and Miss Musala Tulufela and Miss Kadi Palesa and Mr. Mutau Benedict and Mr. Maimela David and Mr. Muhuba Khalema, and there's Linda Golding. I don't know whether it's a female or male. Dr. Mulambazo Nandi and Dr. Mzileni Michali and Dr. Lepere Refilwe, who is a female, and also Miss Mutaung Riarabeto and Miss Mda Nomazulu and Miss Mkwanya Kate and Miss Tanjekwayo Nelsile and Miss Ndima Kuku Fortunate and Miss Baki Nomvuyiso. And my last one is Miss Makumza Nwabisa Joy. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Majosi from the IFP. Maybe what we would need is to just get an indication on the time that community support needs to put up the spreadsheet with the names, of course noting what the EFF would have raised.
If I may, Chair.
Yes, Dr.
And the honorable members, I'm not too sure if we can be afforded 10 minutes of your time, if that's all possible. We just need to, all that we did was basically to where there were numbers, candidate numbers that were mentioned, we actually captured the actual numbers. So we just need to, take the name and translate them into the spreadsheet. There might have been very few discrepancies, but we tried a little best to capture everything. So if Chair can allow us about 10 minutes of your time, just to populate everything into the spreadsheet, I think that should suffice, Chair.
Okay. Honorable Kola Barnett. I see your hand.
Sorry, Chair, I'm just watching the time.
Yes.
Obviously, we have to be in our caucuses at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
So time is short to put the pressure on people like that while they collate this list. There are obviously many names that appear across all three lists. So perhaps we should give them that time and pick it up again during the 1 o'clock meeting, just a proposal.
Yeah, I hear your proposal, Honorable Kola Barnett, and I take it that it's not a bad proposal, given what we have to manage here. That will still allow them until 10 to, let's see what they are able to bring. And we may agree at that point that maybe we ask the committee support to also just get us an extended time, because we are also needed in the House sitting this afternoon. So we'll just have to check if we cannot take the committee later on, because it is just the adoption of the report of the subcommittee, and that we use that 1 o'clock meeting to actually finalize. So let's give it up until 10 to, it's fine, and then get back and consider that proposal. But it's not a bad one. Thank you.
Chair. Honorable Chair.
Honorable Mthembu.
I just want to second a proposal made by honorable member from the DA.
Yes. Yes, like I said, we'll have to consider that. Let's see up until 10 to what they bring, and then we can, in the meantime, work on getting the committee probably post the city, just for that. Honorable.
Chair, if I may, if you allow me.
Chair. Chair.
I'm sure he's talking to himself again. Chair, unmute.
On my side, it shows me to be unmuted, so I don't know, maybe power issues. I'm unmuted on my side, so I've been talking.
Can we check if you were talking to yourself again?
Yeah, sorry, Honorable Bachel. So I was just saying, I did hear Honorable Mthembu, and I was saying, let's just wait for committee support to get back. But in the meantime, work on post the sitting for that 1 hour committee adoption of the report, and that the 1 o'clock one we use to complete the actual shortlisting from the subcommittee side. It's unless then I've missed anything else, but that's what I communicated.
If I may, Chair, if you allow me.
Yes, Dr. Mitubi.
I was trying to maybe to piggyback on the suggestion of the honorable members, so that maybe the second meeting would give us a much more time to to collate, given that we are yet to receive as well the list from the EFF that you also need to collate. So I was going to up to maybe to if allowed, that we look into the next meeting with the collated list, if that's all possible.
I don't think members would have a problem with that, because we want to do it thoroughly, and that will leave no one behind. So if you really think that the time you have given yourselves, you would not be able to do a proper job, I think members could consider this, that we reconvene at 1. Of course, the only advice I would have would be for members to really keep their lists so that it's easy to compare when you put up the list. And this is how the list would be presented, honorable members, so that it's transparent. We would have the names from each of the parties. And where there are common names, probably you'd use color coding so that we do not change the lists as submitted by parties through a consolidation. But at the back of the mind, honorable members, is to remember the principle we agreed upon, because I listened to you as you were presenting names. That as a matter of principle, we have agreed on those that are currently serving who have been nominated again, that we consider those. So I've heard you as you were giving your lists. So just keep that also at the back of your mind. Do we agree then that we really reconvene at 1? We get presented to the list at the time. I would ask that the rep, please make sure that Honorable Pambo responds, because if we get to that meeting at 1 and we do not have a response, we'll take you to have been covered by inputs made by other honorable members. Honorable member from the EFF.
Yes, Chair, agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. So honorable members will then, of course, adjourn at this point for us to reconvene at 1. Is it 1, Mr. David? The final approval?
Yes, Chairperson, is 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. So we'll reconvene at 1. New link or same link?
New link, Chair. We're going to distribute it now. Yes.
Okay, please send it on time. Thank you. Thanks, honorable members, for the understanding. We're together and this, we'll get through it. See you at 1.
Together, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.